For a long time, we've really only talked about two main types of guys, alphas and betas. But what if that whole social hierarchy is missing something? Well, there's a new archetype making waves online, one that plays by a completely different set of rules. Today, we're diving into the rise of the Sigma male. Okay, so let's do a super quick recap, just to get on the same page. You already know the classic setup. You've got your alpha male. He's the leader, the extrovert, the confident guy at the front of the pack. And then you have the beta male, usually seen as the follower, more reserved, more compliant. It's a pretty straightforward black and white picture. But here's the thing that's been bugging a lot of people. What happens if you don't really feel like you fit into either of those boxes? What if you're not trying to lead the charge, but you're definitely not interested in just following along either? And that, my friends, is where the Sigma male enters the chat. He's often called the lone wolf because this archetype, he's not even playing the same game. So what are we actually talking about here? Well, a Sigma male is basically an introverted but really capable person who just decides to step outside of that whole social power structure. He's got his own set of values, follows his own internal compass, and he chooses to walk his own path. And you've seen this archetype everywhere in pop culture, probably without even realizing it. Think about someone like John Wick or Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight, totally self-contained, operating by their own code. Even Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders has that vibe. And hey, the source material even points to Keanu Reeves in real life as a perfect example. Super humble, totally independent, and just doing his own thing. Okay, so what really makes a Sigma tick? Let's break down the anatomy of this so-called lone wolf. It really comes down to three core pillars. First up, and this is the big one, radical independence. A Sigma doesn't just put up with being alone. He actually values it. That's where he thinks, that's where he recharges. He also has this built-in filter for pointless rules or social traditions. It's not about being a rebel, it's just, if it's not efficient, he's not interested. At the end of the day, he's his own boss. Pillar number 2 is quiet leadership. Now, this is a really interesting contrast to the alpha. An alpha leads from the front, very vocally. A Sigma, he can be just as effective, but he leads by example, not by ego. He doesn't need applause or validation. He's more likely to use silence to his advantage and is purely focused on getting the job done, not on who gets the credit. And that brings us to pillar 3, uncompromising integrity. Sigmas just cannot stand fake social hierarchies, like office politics or popularity contests. They treat people based on who they are, not their title or status. And they will not compromise their principles just to get ahead. Their moral compass is all internal. All right, so we've got these 3 pillars down, but how does this all translate into, real life? Let's take a look at the kinds of careers and lifestyles that a Sigma tends to gravitate towards. It makes total sense that a Sigma would thrive in jobs that give him a ton of autonomy. Think about entrepreneurs who would rather have a small killer team instead of a massive corporation, or content creators who focus on a specific niche they're passionate about instead of just chasing viral fame. And of course, creative freelancers, writers, designers, developers, it's the perfect setup for deep, focused work, all on your own terms. And this mindset totally spills over into their lifestyle. Minimalism is a huge one, valuing cool experiences way more than fancy stuff. Nomadism, too, the freedom of not being tied down to one spot. A lot of Sigmas prefer living in a more rural setting where they have more control. And here's the paradox. They often love having strict routines, not to be rigid, but to make day-to-day life so efficient that they can free up all their brain power for the things that really matter. But, of course, being so independent means that some situations and some people are just not going to be a good mix. When you're forging your own path, you're pretty much guaranteed to run into some friction along the way. So, who just doesn't mesh well with a Sigma? Well, people who have to win no matter what are a tough match because a Sigma will always choose integrity over just winning. Same goes for people who are constantly fishing for compliments or validation, since a Sigma gets that from within. And finally, his need for alone time really clashes with people who have to be surrounded by a group 24/7. This definitely applies to the workplace, too. Those corporate cultures with forced fun like mandatory team-building weekends, that's a Sigma's nightmare. And so are those super bureaucratic jobs where you have to follow a massive rulebook to the letter with zero room for your own thinking or to find a better way to do things. It's just stifling. Okay, so after going through all of this, it's totally fair to ask, are we just swapping one set of labels for another? It's a good question. Let's take a step back and get some perspective here. Look, here's the most important thing to get. Alphas and Sigmas are often equally competent, equally confident. The real difference is the direction of their energy.
The alpha focuses his energy outward to lead and influence other people. The sigma, he takes that same amount of energy and focuses it inward, on mastering himself. It's not about which is better, it's just about different priorities.
And this really brings it all home. There's this fantastic quote from the source material that just nails it. It says, "All men possess elements of alpha, beta, and sigma depending on the situation. Don't limit your thinking. Live, learn, and grow." How powerful is that? These aren't supposed to be rigid boxes to trap ourselves in. They're more like different modes we can tap into. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you call yourself an alpha, a sigma, a beta, or none of the above. The label is way less important than the lesson. What really matters is focusing on your own path, on your own growth. That's the real journey. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and help us build the hype. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.